Hey everybody, Dale Raper here on the Bull Mountain Podcast, brought to you by Happy Hollow Outdoors. Today we got a guest going to be on here. I don't know, I knew him all my life. Know some of his struggles that he's had and where he's at today. God laid it on my heart to reach out to Shane Petree. Glad to have you, man.
Glad to be here.
So we're going to see where this goes. Shane's going to tell us a little bit about what he wants to tell us about. If I ask anything that you don't want to talk about, just tell me. We're good.
Yes, sir.
Shane, tell us about yourself, where you from, where you grew up. No.
Okay. My name is Shane Petree. I was born in Victoria, Texas, and made my way back over to here to Red Bay. My family, Neil and Blanche parents, are my grandparents. They used to live in Pogo. My grandmother, Annette Petree, she was a school teacher right here in Red Bay, and so was my great-grandmother. Actually, she's Bob Tiffin's teacher. So,
Oh, yeah.
So how cool is that? But I lived on McCarthy Drive. My dad was Tom Petree, and my uncle John Petree went to school at Red Bay. My whole life, K through 12, involved in every sport and activity there was, I believe. Played football, baseball, lettered in varsity baseball and football. Played for a great coach in Dale Jeffries. Grew up right down the road from Mr. Donnie Roberts, so I had people connected, real good people all my life.
Yeah.
Raised up at Red Bay Church of Christ. That's really about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about growing up in Red Bay?
Well,
What sticks out to you the most?
Well, there's several different things, Dale. First of all, the love of the community, the people that was there for you, the people always looking out for everybody else's children. Because back in my day, we went out and played on the streets, and we didn't come home to the lamp come on, not the lamp,
Street light.
Yeah, street light. Come on. Everybody was looking out for each other. All of us kids were playing around, whether it's backyard football, backyard baseball. Little League was great then, and everybody was coming together to support each other. That was always special. Good church family, always looking out for each other. So that brings back a lot of good memories.
You know, I hear a lot of people say, you know, everybody knows everybody's business in a small town. I don't think that's such a bad thing most of the time.
Well,
You know what I mean?
yeah, and no.
I mean, I see both sides of that, but, you know, if everybody knows that so-and-so is struggling, somebody's going to pitch in and try to help, you know,
absolutely.
whatever. So, I mean, I can see both sides of that, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing.
No,
you know?
it's not a bad thing, you know, because when somebody gets wind of something, especially growing up, and if I was doing something, somebody was telling my grandmother, getting ahead. The neighbors were always questioning, hey, he's been hanging out over here in so-and-so's house, and I don't really think that's good, you know, such and things like that. And most of the time, I grew up with the Quinn boys, and when we did something wrong, Mr. Neal had this big pattern, and if they was going to get in trouble, so was I. And it was giving permission to him to do that. So, and the same way at our household. And that's the way it was. You know, everybody, like I said, looking out for everybody. So,
What's it like seeing your son now playing ball?
Well, I tell you, he grew up in the Little League, and I was able to coach him and had wonderful people coaching him too. Him and I, we used to go to the football fields. He'd probably kill me if he realized I told this. We'd get out there, we'd go to the baseball fields, and we'd put the work in. He was always able to do that, and that was really good. And to see him come up from the varsity, we used to go out to the football field, and I was like I was an announcer. So the first time I heard his name called out over the loudspeaker, I'm going to be honest with you, I shed a few tears, you know, because that was special to me to get to see him go to the same school that I went through. You know, and people loving him and knowing who his family is too, and watching over him and stuff as well. So it's special to me.
Shane, I don't know how to ask this.
Just ask it, buddy. It's fine.
Tell us, start at the very beginning. Tell us the road you've been down that leads up to where you're at right now.
Okay. All righty. So I've told this. I'm okay to tell this because God has set me free.
Right.
And I'm raw as can be. I just tell it like it is. So just buckle up.
That's the only way to do it.
That's it. So like I said, I grew up right here in Red Bay, and I was taught about spiritual principles. My grandma would read the Bible to me. I was taught about spiritual principles in the church. Now, as a small child, I don't really know what age something clicked, but there's some things that happened to me in my childhood. Was not my father's fault. It was not anybody's fault. It was dealing with a sick person that he married. Okay, and there was some things that happened, some abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was able to tell my grandmother about it. And back then, nothing was not really talked about too much because she just didn't know what to do. Nobody really knew what to do.
Right.
And so at that young age, I've learned through healing and through step work and through counsel that certain thought patterns was formed in my brain, how to keep myself safe, because I had to keep over here. What kind of mood is she in? What's kind of going on over here? When can I get to my grandma to feel safe?
Yeah.
Okay. And my dad, he would protect me, but he wasn't always there. And I was scared to tell him because what might happen. So that formed some fears. And going on in elementary school, I ended up telling some friends about what happened. And they told people when I was first grade, I believe, and I was embarrassed.
Right.
And that so therefore I developed low self-esteem. I developed all these traits, fearful thoughts, not feeling good enough thoughts. Where does that come from? Okay, when something evil like that happens to a child, you don't know really what to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so working my way through up, my grandma was my biggest supporter. She raised me, she took care of me, she guided me, and she was almost like a god to me, the only one I could feel like I could truly count on.
Right.
Okay. And other people was there and loved me and stuff, but that was the bond that I had.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I went along, a little bit older, still not dealing with these feelings. I guess it was around, most of us young lads go out to campouts, and that's where a lot of the drinking started.
Yeah.
Campouts, and most Southern boys, if we're honest, that's what we did.
Yeah.
And when I drank for the very first time, I'm not going to name names where we was at, a bunch of teenagers on the field, and it changed something within me. Something, I like how this feels. I like these self-defeating thoughts. I'm not good enough. I can talk to the pretty little girls here, not feeling like I'm sounding crazy or nothing, or sounding stupid, or I could feel okay. And I didn't do that every day after that. We couldn't. We was 14 and 15 years old. We was playing baseball, but I promise you, we couldn't wait for the next weekend.
Yeah.
And I wanted to feel that way. So developing on up into junior high, we were undefeated in our junior high. We had a really good team, good team. There's a point I'm trying to make to this in just a second. We would put in the work. We was undefeated. We were looking to do big things time we got to our sophomore year. Well, that summer we got into drinking. We got into smoking pot. Not all of it. There was a crew of us that did. And once again, that started changing the way I felt. I felt okay. And I got into the marijuana. And the next thing you know, I'm not taking care of my baseball. I'm not taking care of my arm. I'm not putting forth as much efforts. And our sophomore year, we started a bunch of 10th graders, and we wasn't on our P's and Q's.
Yeah.
You know why? Because we was affected, our inhibitions were affected. And mine was. I can only speak for me.
Right.
And that carried on out, and through my senior year, I wasn't thinking about planning for college education. I wasn't planning, I'll figure it out. And really, the underneath problem was I was scared to death. Am I going to be smart enough to go to college? Am I going to be this? Am I going to be that? And the next thing you know, when I graduated high school, I didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
What did I want to do? I wanted to party. I wanted to keep feeling that feeling. Because, see, I didn't mature the way I was supposed to emotionally, the way some of my peers did, because I was already in that shape of mind. You know, Bradford shares something about a broken brain. Your brain, when childhood trauma happens, your brain rewires itself. And I didn't know that. So when I felt that chemical peace of mind, all that kind of made everything okay. Long story short, I ended up getting into pills first, just because some other people were doing it. And that was a game changer for me. I really felt good on those. Yeah. I could work faster. I could work hard. I thought I was smarter. It made me have a whole bunch of energy. And that mind up here got not good enough, does people love me? How am I ever going to find the right one? You know, all those type things, all those fears. And that made me get ease and comfort. And then the next thing you know, it becomes more and more. When I try to stop, I can't. I can remember when I realized I had a bad problem as we was going to watch everybody play football, and I had to have those pills to be able to go chit-chat and talk.
Yeah.
And I can remember I can stop when I want to, but I realized right then I was probably 20 years old. And then on through I graduated to the methamphetamine. And that, I believe that is the devil's drug. I got addicted to it to give me plenty of energy. I can drink, I can stay up, and I had that feeling of euphoria, okay with me, but really I wasn't. I knew that was not the right thing to do because I've been taught about the dangers of drugs and alcohol and where it could get you. And I thought, I'm not a drug addict. I'm not like, we always hear these stories of what a drug addict or alcoholic is, and I'm not like that. You know what I mean?
Denial.
I'm not like them. And I was educated. My grandma would talk to me about these issues, about her good friend that had a son that passed away from drugs.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name those names, but it was a good family friend, and I thought I would never be like that until I was.
Right.
And like I said, the methamphetamine got on. I ended up, I met somebody, and she said, well, let's have a baby, which, you know, probably need to get married first. That's the right thing to do. And my brain was not thinking correctly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had people trying to instruct me, trying to help me, trying to believe in me, but I didn't believe in myself. I could have all the people that loved me and supported me around to give me encouragements, but I couldn't hear that. What I heard was, yeah, you can do it. I love you. But what this told me was, you can't do it. They don't really love you.
Yeah.
They're just doing this because they've known you your whole life. Now, that's kind of sick thinking.
Right.
Okay? But that's how my thinking was. Well, it progressed on and ended up not being able to see my daughter. Okay? And that really hurt me because some of my own choices. I won't take responsibility for some of that. And then it went into, I couldn't stop doing meth. Ended up in the hospital, a good friend of mine, and we ended up running into the woods, and people were trying to kill us, and it's insanity. Now, if that ain't the devil, I don't know what is. Went into somebody's house, scared somebody was trying to kill us. His mama and my grandmother had come get us. And that was the first time treatment had ever been brought up to me. Yeah. And I lied, and I pretty much, I'm not using that much, and just every now and then. And they told me the answer I want to hear, you're just depressed. And so my grandma and everybody would get off my back. I didn't realize that's what I was doing at the time, but later on, through self-surveying myself, that's what I found out. Yeah. So you went to a rehab then? Well, no, not then. Okay. They wouldn't take me because they said I didn't really have a problem. Because see, I lied to myself and to them. And the first time I showed up in rehab was in 2002 at Sunrise Lodge. And it was wonderful. I learned about what an alcoholic and what someone with substance disorder is. Yeah. Okay, the game is changing. You say drug addict and alcoholic, but I believe that's creating more of a problem because it's stigmatized so much. So the mental health board is calling it now substance use disorder and alcohol use disorder. But so when I went in there, I found out, okay, if I take this into my body, I can't stop because I actually have a physical craving for it, which differentiates for somebody that's a normal drinker or a user or whatever. Somebody can take their pain medication right. See, some people can do that. Some people don't have, okay, they can take it or leave it alone. But for me, when I do it, my body actually craves it. That's the medical issue behind it. And I found out what that was. But I thought, if I get out and learn what I learned about what I was, I can stop. Well, the next thing you know, I'm hanging out with some of my buddies trying to save them. And guess what?
You fall right back into it?
Yes, because they've been getting high longer and I've been trying to stay sober. Yeah. And my relationship with God and my understanding, who I call Jesus Christ, that's right. Is I was just a baby. You know what I mean? I was not leaning on him. I was leaning on my own guidance. And we know what happens when we choose to go that route.
Failure.
Yes, every time for me, definitely. I'll make a mess of everything. And I talk with my hands. I said, I just can't help it. I'm a fast talker and a fast thinker. So I guess that's why I said buckle up. So it wouldn't matter. Maybe 6 months. It was twice in 2002, that same year. And there was a guy who was in there who was a lot older gentleman. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to be like you. I'm not going to be 40 years old in a rehab. Yeah. You know, what is my judgmental attitude? What is wrong with you? But I was in the process of doing that. Right. You see? And I can remember a gentleman who told me, you don't need to go to that ball game in Tuscaloosa. You need to stay here. You need to hang around other people like you. You need to be going to 12-step meetings. Oh, I'm going to be around alcohol. I'm not going to drink. I went to Tuscaloosa, went to the quad, drank me some alcohol, and I didn't think I could be sober. I can't be sober in these type of places.
Right.
Everybody looks like, all I saw was everybody drinks, everybody takes some narcotics, and that was a lie. That's a delusion I was in.
Yeah.
You know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, then somewhere along the way, I guess we're just going to fast forward a little bit because I can go many different directions in this. In 2010, there was the Oxycontin epidemic.
Right.
And we are in a bigger epidemic now with the fentanyl issue. But back then it was Oxycontin. And I had, doesn't matter how much, but it was a lot. And I could not stop. I can remember the last day I did Oxycontin. Dale, I had 3 Oxycontin 80 milligram pills. And I did those just to not be sick. And when I first started, that would have killed me, you know.
Yeah.
I ended up going a different route. What my daddy suggested me not to do. I went to the methadone clinic.
Yeah.
I did not use any opiates, but the problem was the hole in my soul was not being treated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That part that says you're not good enough, the lies from the enemy, if I will, that I didn't believe, you know. And so I went there, and I got addicted to another substance, which I also call benzodiazepine. In other words, Xanax and that kind of family. And that was another monster for me. I got addicted to those, and when I had those, I thought I was talking, everything was good, but in all reality, I was just walking around asleep, you know.
Yeah.
It caused me to have wrecks, but the most dangerous thing, I had seizures coming off those because I'd taken so much of them, and I could not talk, I could not form sentences. That's the shape of mind I was in.
Yeah.
In 2008, in 2008, my son was born. One of the best days of my life. I was in the living room when I went on, and I thought, okay, you've got to do something different. I love my son and my daughter more than anything.
Right.
And I wish I could say without a crime that I could have got sober and stayed sober right then when he was born. I wish I would have not ever messed up.
Right.
But I love him more than anything. But with the disease of addiction, sometimes that's not. It's just because the disease in my head would tell me, well, if you have this, you can do more. You can. That's a lie. You know what I mean? But in 2010, I almost died 2 different times. The last time I went to the Red Bay Hospital. What had happened was I had aspirated, and lots of things happen right before you die.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting flown out by helicopter to Tupelo Hospital. They all lost me, and they had to hook me up and tube me, and I stayed in there for 2 weeks. And I had a moment of clarity during that time. Shane, you've never done anything they told you to do. I hallucinated things I'm not going to get into. It was really wild. But I believe God was there. Somebody was there praying. Zach Coates was there praying. He worked at the hospital, come in and pray with me every day. And God was letting me know that through some of these things that was happening when I was under those hallucinations. It was pretty intense, but that's what happened. And I was able to get sober then. I was able to go to a halfway house in Florence, Alabama. Got into where I had to go to some 12-step meetings once again, and I did that. I worked the 12 steps, worked through them, and next thing you know, I'm helping others. I'm doing the things I'm supposed to do. I come back to Red Bay, get full custody of Landon. It was me and him, and I'm scared. I was 6 months sober, scared to death, not knowing what to do. Yeah. But I depended on the Lord, and next thing you know, I'm working over at Tiffin's, and I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do. Life is awesome. Life is wonderful. I did those things for 2 years and 2 years and 3 months. Slowly but surely, my ego come back. Well, I don't have to go to many meetings. I can go over here and I can coach ball. I can not go to church as much. I'm okay. Yeah. I'm okay. I'm thinking I don't have to do those things anymore. I don't have to take this one day at a time. But what happened was I started feeling some pain in my back. I started getting irritable, restless, and discontent, not okay with Shane again. And I believe the first thing that happened was I ended up thinking I could take some cough medicine, which had hydrocodone in it correctly. Next thing you know, I'm wanting to drink the whole bottle. Right. And that's what happened. And it was a revolving door to 2021. And we keep on going.
We good. Let's take a break. Right. Okay. There. So we're at 2021.
Yes.
Folks, we'll be back in just a minute.
Make your next DIY project a success with a little help from Tiffin Supply. For 75 years, our hardware store has served the community of Red Bay and surrounding areas with premium lumber products, including treated lumber, siding, concrete blocks, and home appliances, including a large selection of windows in a wide range of sizes, all at affordable prices. Now, in our third generation, we continue to have a knowledgeable and friendly sales staff who are eager to assist you with anything you need. We can select hard-to-find items, match paints, and special order customized doors for you. At Tiffin Supply, you get personalized service you can't find anywhere else. We are open Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. till 4 p.m. Come by or call us today at 256-356-4946. Also visit us online at www.tiffinsupply.com.
Hey everybody, we back on the Bull Mountain Podcast, brought to you by Happy Hollow Outdoors. Right before the break, Shane had said 2021, so let's try to pick it back up right there.
Yes, sir. 2021. 20, back up 20, that was probably the worst year of my life. Leading up to what happened, God's saving grace in 21. My grandmother had passed away in 20, and my dad a little bit after that, on Christmas time. And I was been caregiver, still struggling. My uncle was there to help out some. I was just no shakily taking care of anybody.
Right.
Couldn't even take care of myself, much less anybody else. And that's the obvious. Struggling. And when my grandmother passed away, that really hurt me because that was my rock.
Yeah.
You know, I was scared, but thank God that she put all the things that she put me in, so I was prepared when I got myself right. My dad, that was hard. I was watching over him, watching him die slowly. That was very hard. And then, slowly but surely, I was still living on McCarthy Drive, and my dad was taken out of the home. I got really involved in the meth. I let people be around me that I should never been around. Things were stolen that I wasn't aware of. I was in constant fear of the police coming. No, Landon was gone from me. Thank God I had enough sense to ask his mama to help.
Yeah.
And she did, and there was a cycle of things that happened through that to be where he's at today. I'll get to that in just a second. And then, let's see, I can't remember the exact date, but I got a knock on the door. They done been to the house several times on McCarthy Drive, where my grandma had built a home that was respected to other neighbors, and I destroyed all that real quick.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but that's just what happened. Although, first time to come, I didn't go to jail. I got in a fight, acting like a crazy person. Reminds me of a story in the Bible when the demons, they called him, to refresh my memory, in the cave, became Legion.
Yeah.
And he was running around naked. He was doing all these things. Picture that. That's the way I look at myself. I was Legion at that point in time. I'll get back to that point in a minute. I wasn't running around the streets of Red Bay naked, but I was running around like a crazy person.
Right.
You know what I mean? Full of evil. And so, the second time, there was an officer, and I know he wouldn't care to share his name, and that's Chad Hawkins.
Yeah.
Showed up with other members of our Franklin County Police Department and our fine patrol officers from the Red Bay Police Department.
Yeah.
Miss Janet Jackson's always treated me well. She always tried to help me, and thank God. Had another friend that actually called the police. He wouldn't mind sharing this, Tory Louie.
Yeah.
He helped save my life and be able to get the police involved. They cared enough about me. It goes back to being from a small town.
Right.
You know, and so that kind of happened. And I never really liked jail too much. I didn't like being caged up like an animal. And I got time to sit there and think. I didn't stay in there long. Ended up just during COVID, and I got out on bond, and I had some thinking to
Yeah.
do. I realized that ended up my uncle wouldn't let me stay at the house anymore. That helped save my life. That was Christmas I was outside in my car, snowing. Went to a friend's at one of these villages over here, and they wouldn't let me in the house. The only place I could go to where they were still doing that stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be there. It was all the dope you wanted there, but I didn't want none of it. But I did it because I didn't want to feel I was hungry, didn't have any money, so I did that stuff not to be hungry. Next thing you know, I ended up in Tremont. That's another place I didn't need to be. Finally, I threw my hands. Only thing I know to do was to call my other brother in Walker County who had been sober and got sober in Anniston, Alabama. And I went down there to visit my mother. And they said, you're not using narcotics in this house. We live by spiritual principles in this house, and that's what we're going to do. You're going to treatment, or you're not going to stay here. And I was at that point, I was ready. And I knew that there was no other options. I had run out of options A through Z.
Yeah. There
was no longer, I was at that place called what I call rock bottom.
Right.
Spiritually bankrupt. And I was at that jumping off place. I was either going to go down to the bitter end and die, or I was going to suit up, show up, as my grandma would say, get some grit, my rear end, and do something about it.
Yeah.
And that was the decision that God gave me the courage to do. Because on my own, I can't make that kind of decision.
Oh, no.
So I asked for his help, and that's what he did. The Avenue, the police department first helped me, and ended up making it to Walker County. My brother ended up taking a place called Stepping Forward, and that is a sober living. Okay, I'm going to distinguish the two in just a second. The sober living is a place where you go to, you're strict. Not all of them are, but this one was. Yeah. It was strict. It was accountability. You're going to 12-step meetings. You're going to get a humility job. You're going to go to work. You're going to pay rent. You're going to do these things. Yeah. But the biggest things, you're going to find who you are. You're going to be held accountable. And at first, I thought this guy who run the place was a nice dressed dude, pretty nice fella. He was tough. He saved my life, gave me that tough love. Yeah. And I had tough love before from my head football coach, Dale Jeffries, from my uncle, who always tried to help me by giving me tough love. Yeah. Sometimes I didn't want to receive it that way, but now I see that he was trying to help me because he loved me. I ended up getting there to Anniston, and it was hard. I had to lay on a twin bed with other dudes in the house. It wasn't that big of a place. I could touch the ceiling with my foot, okay? And I thought to myself, I had time to think because I sat still. The narcotics, it was out of my system. And that was March 6th was the day I took my last drink of alcohol, last day I took any pill, last day I did any methamphetamine, last thing I did anything to change the way I feel. Right. No narcotics, no anything into my system. And so I got to sit there and I got to think. I did a lot of crying. I'm not ashamed to admit it. The guilt and the shame where my son was at, he was not where he's at now. He was in a different place, and I'm not going to get into all that, but God took care of him too. I was so worried. What can I realize? There was nothing I could do. Because, see, I tried attempts before getting sober from when I relapsed in 2012 to 21. Yeah. And I got to come back. I got to make sure Landon's okay. I got to do this. I got to take care of my grandma. I got to do this. Never took time to get Shane right. Yeah. And I had to learn a lot of things. I had to go through what I call growing pains. I had to grow up. I had to, and I had that help from somebody calling me on my mess. You know, when my thinking was crazy. And I can remember I had to work at a Western Sizzling. And I used to work at Tiffin's and working on the farm. And I used to have this ego problem and think, people in the restaurant don't work hard. Yeah. And really and truly, I thought I was too good to do that. Yeah. And that's a shame to say, but that's what my thinking pattern was. Well, thank God I was taught about hard work growing up. And so I started working at that Sizzling place. And I started noticing things about myself. What my flaws in my makeup was. I started realizing I couldn't rest on my laurels. You can call Tiffin's. I showed up and work every day, whether I was the right shape to be there or not. I got there. Yeah. You asked Charles Petree. He said, you might not be on top of your mentally sometimes, but you're going to get the job done. You're going to be at work. And I said, you can call Tiffin's. Let's see what kind of employee I am. He said, it don't matter. It's what you're doing now. All that's gone. Yeah. Are you going to grow up and be a man? You're going to look at what? And he would say things like that to me. You're right. There's a lot of emotional things went on during that time. But what happened was I was able to look at the facts. Reality, I said. I was not believing the you're not good enough no more. You're a horrible dad. You're all these things that the enemy will tell me. I didn't have to believe that. I can look at my own mistakes and start looking at it and say, okay, this is facts. But then I started looking out, I can't take any lotions. Can't have any lotions, any potion to change my emotions today. I cannot have anything to change the way I feel because I'm going to want more of it. Yeah. And if I realize that I'm allergic to that if I put it in my body, because if you go to the doctor and I say, you tell the doctor you're allergic to penicillin, are you going to take penicillin?
No.
Okay, let me ask you another question. If you eat fish and you're allergic to fish, okay, and you say, well, maybe I can just have just a little bit. If I mix it up with my seafood over here or my chicken, maybe in some potatoes, maybe in some my roast beef, just a little bit, is your throat going to swell up?
Yeah, it's going to.
Okay. Now, how crazy is it to me to believe that I can have just a little bit?
Yeah.
It don't make sense, does it?
Not at all.
So when that made sense to me, and look at it, I have an allergy. I cannot have this stuff because if I have it, I'm not going to be able to stop. That got pretty easy. Yeah. And then I started looking at how my thoughts were insane. The big step was for me number 3. Number 3 was I made a decision right then and there. I was decided to turn my will and my life over to Jesus, over to God of my understanding. And what that looked like was I learned that my will was my thinking. My life was the actions that I took.
Right.
And when that started making sense, then I started looking at things, all the people I was mad at, I call that resentment, all the things, well, I thought it was everybody else, that woman who sexually abused me. I'm not going to go into all that, but a lot of different things. And then I can look at why I was mad at them. Then I can look what it affected. Was it affected my security? Did it affect my ambitions? Did it affect my self-esteem? And then I got to look at what my part was. My part was I let that woman do that in my head for years after the fact.
Yeah.
I was selfish. I was dishonest. I was self-seeking. Everything was about how is this going to affect Shane? Okay? Then I got to tell somebody about it. And then I got to realize that I have flaws in my makeup. I'm not perfect. But what I can do, I can ask God for the willingness to change these things. For example, nicotine. I was willing to give the cigarettes to him. I quit smoking cigarettes almost been 2 years now. Now, my flaw, my shortcoming is I now do vape. That's not totally giving it up. But am I perfect? I believe that's going to hinder me in my salvation. I don't know. But I'm willing to try to grow and towards not to maybe get off the nicotine, whatever. I'm just using that example. Okay. And then I got to make a list of people that I've harmed. And then I got to, if I've harmed them, make amends and try my best to make things right. I'm not just going to say, hey, Dale, I'm sorry I did this. As an example, I'm sorry, man. Sorry don't fill the bill. I said I'm sorry for years, but what is I make restitutions and make things right the best of my ability. And sometimes there's still amends I'm always going to be making. God's going to give me more stuff. Hey, you remember when you did this over here? That wasn't right. And also there's lots of amends that are not direct. It's just my action. My words line up with my actions. My actions line up with my words today. I ain't got to be somebody else. I'm not. But the biggest thing is I have 10, 11, and 12 that I stay spiritually fit every day. I keep a written inventory of what my thinking is. Yeah. Is my thinking selfish? Is my thinking any kind of dishonesty? Is my thinking these different things? And then I have prayer and meditation, and we know what that is.
Oh yeah.
I get to write down. I get to take these things to God, and I get to ask Him for strength, for courage, for me to be able to help His children. Because that's what God's will for me is to help His kids. Because the Bible says, "Love thy neighbor as thyself." Love me with all my heart, everything in me. And love thy neighbor as thyself. I've become, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. And that brings us to where I'm at today, I believe.
So tell us a little bit about this.
Oh boy, yes. Okay, I got you. So this is so everybody can see this. This is self-recovery medical detox. And this is what God has given me to do. We are at a 7 to 10 day medical detox. And what detox is, for one that you don't know, is alcohol. We detox from alcohol, benzodiazepines, and opiates. That's the fentanyl. With alcohol and benzos, okay, you've heard this, if you want to stop, you will.
Yeah.
Well, there's some people that is drinking a whole lot and they just stop. Guess what? They're going to have a seizure and they can die.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous. It's the same thing with the benzos. You're going to feel like you're going to die coming off the opiates. Well, our staff, we will, the intake process will have this 866-255-3350. You can reach us and we can do an intake to see what you're using or drinking. We do take all insurances, commercial insurances, Medicare supplements, Alabama Medicaid, Blue Cross Blue, well, that is commercial. We also have a program. If you have a child under the age of 18 living in the home with you, you can qualify for what we call presumptive Medicaid. We have a unit in Utah, Alabama that we can get you at that one. We also provide transportation. So you can do this intake in the privacy of your own home, and we can come right in here to Red Bay, Alabama, or wherever you're at, get you from your residence, take you to one of our locations. One of them is in Anniston at REMC Hospital. The next is at Atrium, Florida in Cherokee County. Center, Alabama, that's crappie fishing capital.
Oh, yeah.
And in Greenville, that's our Southern Union off I-65 down below Montgomery. And our Utah, Alabama.
Greene County.
Yes, absolutely. You know something about that, don't you?
A little bit.
Yeah. So that's what we do. Now, the cool thing about that is when you come to detox, especially, there's not a lot of resources here in Franklin County.
Right.
And that's part of what I'm here for, too. You have to have a state assessment to get to a state-funded place. Sunrise Lodge is a state-funded place. Cedar Lodge in Gunnersville is also a state-funded place. You have to have a state assessment. We call that an ASAM.
Yeah. And
that determines what level of care. Detox is the level 7 care. State-funded places like Cedar Lodge and some parts of Bradford is like a 3.5. And then you go on down to levels of care. Okay, so you have to have that. When you're on our unit, we can get that done for you by a third-party assessor.
Yeah.
And say, if you want an assessment before you come to us, Health Connect in Russellville, Alabama, it's a wonderful resource to use, and also Riverbend. You have to have that to get in.
Right. You got to have those.
Yes.
To do this program.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to have the assessment to get with us. Okay. You can just come to us and we can get it done while you're there.
Right. Okay.
Now, we also work with sober livings that are certified. That's Alabama Alliance for Recovery Residents, which that's a big deal in the state of Alabama. We actually had National Advocacy Day at Mama Ivy in Montgomery. So that's a thing now.
Yeah.
And I got to be a part of that. And so Alabama is really making strive to help people with substance use disorder and alcohol use disorder, because for so long in the state of Alabama, it's been stigmatized. And I'm going to say this, it's still stigmatized right here in Red Bay, Alabama. And it's a shame. But that's what I'm here for, to speak openly, because this because somebody has that does not make them a bad person. They have lots of things going on. And I get it. Sometimes we make a bad name for ourselves. But lots of times we do recover. I'm sitting here living proof of what God can do to be able to help. And I promise you, most everybody has somebody affected in their family.
Yep.
Get older. It's something when you have it happen in your own family, when you see somebody you love suffer, and there is a solution to it. That's what I stand up for. Always been for the underdog. I guess that's why I'm a War Eagle kind of guy, you know. War Eagle, by the way. My grandma would love that. But there is help out there, network and love, and that's what we're supposed to do as brothers and sisters in Christ, is help one another. Don't be a what's the word I'm looking for? Stumbling block.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's a different topic for a different day.
I've been guilty seeing somebody down the wrong road, people trying to help them and them not accepting that help.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, I mean, they ain't ready for it. Right. You know what I'm saying? I've been guilty of saying, well, they ain't worth knocking in the head or whatever, you know. Well, the Bible that I read, everybody is supposed to be loved. You know what I'm saying? We're supposed to help everybody. Right. You know? That ain't no different than, and we want to put all sin on a scale. Mm-hmm. When sin is sin. That's right. You know? So it's easy to let our sinful nature get in the way of doing what we're supposed to do to help people that's in that situation, you know?
And here's the thing, brother. When I look at me, what can I do better? Because we're here, you take the alcohol and drugs, that's not the problem. You know, in my thinking, my sins, my selfish. Because what the Bible say, a man that conquers self is greater than the man that conquers the whole city. So it's got to be something to that. The flesh is the problem, right?
Yeah.
So if I can get that away and think of other people, and granted, sometimes it's hard to feel our working. We have people that will come in and think, when are you going to get it? And I have to read back. Because it is illness, because there's doctors that study this brain, a lot smarter than I am, that's done their research. And actually, by the medical side, it's declared disease in the 50s. So if that's true, people have to be helped. And sometimes people, I was on drugs, and I've been guilty. I was on drugs. I can't do that no more. That's an excuse.
Yeah.
But when I've been made a solution, and it's my job to stay on top of it. Okay? That's why it's so important to surrender. When I surrender the fact I cannot have it, that's it. I'm done. No matter, they used to tell me, don't drink even if your rear end falls off. You know what I mean? There's nothing that any narcotics can fix today. But it's scary getting out of a hole. It's scary asking for help. But there is resources out there. And I promise you, whoever's listening, there are people that love you. There are people that you don't even know are watching. Yeah. Like you and I, for example. Yeah. You've watched me. You've watched my journey. You've watched the ups and downs. And so have a lot of other people in this town that have supported me and reached out and told me, I'm proud of you. You know, and that reaffirmed the fact my thinking was always I always had people in my corner, but that thing up here says, no, they're judging you. And that's not always accurate.
Right.
But here we are.
You know, I mean, I know a young man right now, he's going down the wrong road, and I don't want to be around him.
Mm-hmm.
But I've let him know that when he gets ready, when he needs that help, going to accept that help or whatever, to holler at me.
Right.
You know. And I'm gonna holler at you.
Yes.
Is what
yes.
I'm gonna do. I've done got that planned out.
Right.
You know.
Yes, sir.
But I mean, we're supposed to be willing, and it ain't something God asked us to do either. He told us that is a command.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? To help other people. It's not one of the great 10 commandments.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But he tells us in there we're supposed to help one another.
Absolutely.
You know, so.
Love thy neighbor as thyself.
You know, so I mean, when we get the opportunity, we're supposed to seize that opportunity.
Absolutely.
You know, we're supposed to take it. But.
You know, I tell you one thing right here. Like you were saying, you can't be around somebody because it's hard watching somebody you care about do like that and watching destructive decisions. That was always the thing. I had a lot of neighbors too.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, tough love. Always let somebody know, hey, I'm here when you need this. When you're ready to sober up, when you're ready looking for help, I'm here.
Yeah.
And that's when the magic happens. And sometimes it's a moment, I call it a gift of desperation.
Yeah.
It's right then. I'm talking about they need help, try to get right then and get them before I have time to think about it. And that's so vital. But yes, there is help out there, Dale.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing this now?
Well, I started working at, let's say, I know I will be with the company, well, actually, it's been 3 years.
3 years.
3 years with this company. March the 6th of 21 is my sobriety date.
Yeah.
I started working at, I guess, around 8 months sober or so. They gave me the opportunity to go work at the hospital at Stringfellow to be what they call a tech. My responsibilities was checking in patients, making sure they had no narcotics, no stuff like that. Because they'll try to sneak in anything. You would think, well, why do that? But that happens. And it was very important that we do a good job with that because the stuff nowadays, you'll die.
Yeah.
You know, I was in charge of doing groups, dialectic groups, as far as some may call it 12-step groups, other help identify strengths and weaknesses and stuff like that. That was kind of my job. Then I kind of went on up into giving an opportunity to get on the road as a marketer. Never thought that. I used to think it was a curse, so I talked real fast and was able to talk to pretty much anybody before all that stuff got in my head. But they said, here's this opportunity. We believe that you can do this. I was almost said, hey, train one day, this is what you need to do. No, hit it. And I cover all the North Alabama territory. It was me and my supervisor doing the whole state, but now we have some other wonderful team members doing this as well. My job is to market self-recovery. And self-recovery, really, I don't like the word sell itself, but in a way it does because we've been around for quite some time.
Right.
But I get to go in rural communities. I get to work Madison County to form relationships with Madison County officials, different agencies to help them with substance use disorder. And that's kind of what I do. I never thought. I was at the drug court conference this past week with court referral officers. Never would have dreamed that I'd have been working side by side with my old court referral officer, Shay Madden. If you're listening to this, I love you, Shay, and Rebecca. And they helped me. Now I get to work side by side with them. At first, I said, is this happening? Is this real? I got to go to Bryant Conference Center and do ASAS for alcohol, school, and drugs. A table set up and get to work a lot of different providers there and social workers and the new drug trends, a lot of education on what's going on in the state of Alabama. And the coolest thing was I got to meet Johnny Manziel and talk substance use disorder with him personally for about 10 or 15 minutes. Yeah. We didn't really talk about football because he hears that all the time. Yeah. I want to know what was going on with him and what his struggles were as being a professional and going through some of that with the stigma and such. I've got to do a lot of wonderful things because God has blessed me. I used to think, Dale, that I was successful if I had this amount of money in the bank, or I drove this car, or wore this type of clothing, who I knew and all that. None of that matters, man. And it took me a long time to work out all those old ideas. Yeah. What matters is Jesus Christ, my family, my recovery. My recovery comes before anything. And without Jesus Christ, I'm not going to have my recovery. So you know where that's at. My recovery has become above everything because it's an outflow. You know what I mean? Everything falls into place because I'm not worth anything without my recovery. Right. But we at Self Recovery, we're all across the state. We are picking up people from South Alabama, North and West. And we have drivers that's in long-term recovery doing that as well. So the minute we pick them up to the time they leave, they're getting help. So
what about young people?
Okay, it's good that you ask. It goes back. I say this once again. That's one of the things, goals I want to do to speak to the youth, and that day's coming. I grew up in a time, and so did you, when they didn't drug test at school. Right. I know they didn't at Red Bay. No. And if you was in good in sports, you pretty much got away with stuff. And who your parents were and who this was, you know how it is. It's a small town. That's just how it is. But I really believe with the young people, Dale, it's more prevention. What I mean by that is talking about the danger of drugs and alcohol, and this is what happens, but also youth and mental health. Because that's where a lot of this comes from. What's going on in your home life? How do you feel about yourself? What's going on? How are you feeling? Because when we start getting into those things, those peer pressure starts coming. The alcohol starts becoming at get-togethers. They put around things, and if they're not feeling okay mentally, it's more easy for them to fall into that trap. Hey, this is going to make you feel better. And once you feel, this is the answer, you don't listen to anything else. So I believe it's prevention. I believe it's a tight-knit community, and talking about and have them in church and educating about the dangers of drugs and alcohol in the church, the mental health in the church, different things like that to help form those relationships. Does that make sense? Yeah. And with the athletes, I think it's very helpful that our coaches stay engaged with their athletes all across the board, any sport there is. Always check on your players. I had some of that, but in some ways it was just different time back then too. Right. But yeah.
And I see some coaches now. He was a principal over at Vanna. Everybody's got a cell phone now. Mm-hmm. Every morning he's sending them a Bible verse. Amen. And I asked him, I said, what do you think that's doing? He said, I don't know for sure what it's doing, but it ain't doing bad. I know that much. Amen. But, and what I was wondering is, you know, how he felt that was, if he was doing that for one particular person but wasn't wanting to point them out. You know what I'm saying? Kind of deal or whatever. But it just seems to me like with today's technology and all, that there's no reason anybody couldn't get help right away.
Oh,
once they want it.
Yes.
You know.
That's the key. And another thing, technology can be a good thing. Of course, it's at the fingertips. Sometimes we know the bad side of that too.
Oh, yeah.
But there's things in Alabama. There's apps called Connect Alabama. You can look on that and find all the state-funded places that you need. And that's an app that you put on your cell phone, of course. And there's all kinds of different things available. And two, also, there is stuff for the youth that do get exposed to that and possibly need a detox or some help. There's also that. They're starting a new one up in Huntsville that's going to have that. And there is Alliance Health in Mississippi, in Meridian, Mississippi, and they do the transportation too. So there's different avenues for help all across the board, and family support as well. So that's one of the things that I'd like to see happen more. And I'm part of a group called ASAP. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a part of ASAP. I'm a faith-based support specialist, and I'll explain that in just a second. But they have prevention. They go into the schools talking about the dangers of vaping and all wide range of different. We might have something like that here. I'm not really for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that's very important. I think it's very important to have people that's been there, that's been down that road, that you might not think has.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to speak honest. You know, that experience and just be raw. You know, because one of the things I look back, I heard about the dangers, but now looking back, I needed to hear at one point in time, hey, it was fun.
Yeah.
I remember, this will happen. And so when I did it for the first time, guess what? I thought everybody lied to me.
Yeah.
Well, this didn't happen. I didn't fall over dead. And granted, that happens.
Right.
But I think it needs to be talked about all across the board. And everything, so this has been painted, and this is happening, and be able to be aware of when it's starting to happen.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
All the details.
Yes, absolutely, because it's crucial. It's vital. It's vital, and even the things I just looking things here for my own son. You know, it's so important to guard against the mind, because the enemy is trying to come and steal everything. You know, even certain games. You know what I mean? Some people might think I'm overboard, but that's important.
Yeah.
I'm here now. Devil's telling me that something about you're supposed to be able to sell your soul or something. And I think that's I see the enemy all in that.
Everywhere you look, you know.
And it tells us that's going to happen.
And it's going to continue to get worse.
Yes.
You know, I mean, we're seeing it live out. I mean, just what it told us is coming. It's been telling us that since it was written. You know,
I still get chill bumps. You know, but at the end of the day, no matter the roads we took down and lie, I always like thinking about the prodigal son. I have a duty now to be able to share what God's done for me, to be able to use my experience, because that's what he did with Paul. That's what he did with several. Paul thought he was doing the right thing. Well, Saul thought he was doing the right thing. He become Paul. And he said, Lord, is that you?
Yeah.
And he told him what he must do, and that's what he did. You know, that's kind of what I feel like I've been told this is what I need to do.
Right.
I've been given an assignment, and it's whoever I'm supposed to witness to, wherever I'm supposed to be, because I wanted to go. I thought I wanted to go back and make this big money somewhere, but that's not my job.
Right.
You know what I mean? Sometimes I get confused. Sometimes, are you sure this is what you're supposed to be doing? God gives me another things. Yes, this is it. The Holy Spirit reveals certain things, and I don't know if I get off topic about the teens,
No,
right? But
you're good.
I go here and there and say what he puts on my heart. You know what I mean?
That's what you got to do, man. If you're not, you're hindering the spirit. You know.
That's right.
I mean, but you know, one thing, our timing is way different from God's. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that goes back to what I was talking about saying, oh, they ain't worth knocking in the head. Well, maybe it ain't their time yet. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we want everything to happen right away, you know, instead of going through the 12 steps or whatever. Nobody wants to do it in just one.
Right.
Well, that ain't, you know.
Process.
And our actions, I mean, there's going to be repercussions from our actions, you know. He's going to give us the way out.
Right.
You know, but he never said that part was going to be easy.
Right. I concur with that. I'm telling you, one of the things, even that goes back to my director at the program. You know, I'm sober now. Things getting a little bit better. I spent 18 months at the sober living I went to, and I'm still being molded. You know,
Right.
I'm still being. You know, there's some consequences of my action. He's given me a lot of these blessings back, but it's taken. You know, I wanted me and Landon just to be right back just like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's taken time because he went through some changes when all that stuff was happening to me. You know, I wasn't the only one that suffered. My family suffered too.
Right.
And that's been happening over a period of time. My relationships with my ex-wife.
Yeah.
You know, she had put up with me a long time. And God bless her, I publicly apologize to her, and I've done that to her as well. And you know, and her husband too. I've probably hurt him in the process as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And but these things that we do, we get a chance to correct things.
Yeah.
And it just, my uncle used to tell me all the time, it takes longer to destroy a bridge. You can rebuild that bridge, and it takes just like that to destroy it. And it takes so much time to gain trust back again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And slowly that's happened. I used to want to be able to come back and help Red Bay and share the good news, but I didn't know enough about humility then. People will see. He said, people will see, Shane, you'll get opportunities to do that, and that's the way it's happened.
Yeah.
You know, and the same thing, I want to publicly say that if you ever need help, if you're listening right now, you need help, my number is 256-452-1455. I'm always available. I'll try to do the best I can to help you and guide you in the right direction. If you just need a listening ear, I'll try to do that too.
Yeah.
It goes back to my purpose a while ago I was talking about.
Yeah. Shane, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, man. It's an honor, and I'm privileged to be here today.
But you got anything else you want to share on anything?
Well,
Anything. It don't matter.
Red Bay, Alabama will always be important to me, Dale, and the surrounding. I go all across this state sharing things. I always ask people when they've heard of Red Bay, Alabama, to get to tell about our heritage, get to tell about our local business and how happy I am we have Happy Hollow Outdoor.
Yeah.
And share all the good news of it and the good people of Tiflin Motor Homes and Sunshine, all of our wonderful community here. But most importantly, I like to be able to remind people that recovery is possible.
Yeah.
Put your faith and trust in Jesus and walk in the way he wants you to, and everything's going to work out. And it takes work, hard work, but if you stay true and trust the road to happy destiny, you'll be okay. I guess that's it, man. Thank you.
I want to share Matthew 19, verse 26. It says, "But Jesus beheld them and said unto them, with men this is impossible." Men, that's us.
Mm-hmm.
But with God, all is a very big word. But with God, all things are possible.
things are
Shane's living
possible.
proof of that with his recovery. And again, people can judge, people can do what they want to do, but I mean, you know, that's between you and God, what he's told you need to be doing,
Right.
you know, and you're doing it. And I pray you keep getting the tools to do it.
Thank you.
So, folks, we're going to wrap it up with that. If y'all need any help, holler at him.
Yes.